In today's show, we have another of our popular Dynamite Conspiracies episodes, where first we talk about, is President Zalenski of Ukraine the most stunningly effective person ever against neo-Nazis? And secondly, we discuss what really happened to the Boeing whistleblower.
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasula, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello, my friend, once again. I hope you're keeping safe and well. You're on mute still. Again, you've done it again.
Like I was saying, what the hell, Tony? What am I going to do? Look at my flecking hair, man. What a mess. Anyway.
All your army of fans out there won't mind about your hair, honestly.
You're kidding. Of course they will.
Come on. Let's keep up tradition. Say hi to our audience.
No, you've already insulted my hair and insulted my appearance and everything, so no.
I never said that. How have you translated that as an insult to your hair?
I choose to be pessimistic always, you know that. So I always look at the half empty part. I don't really, do I? But yeah. No. On this occasion, I will.
Okay.
Just to be different.
Anyway, before we begin the show, I am again going to thank our listeners and viewers who are out there who are commenting on our shows and giving us some feedback. We do appreciate that. Keep that coming in, keep commenting, keep submitting, whatever platform you happen to be on. We do respond eventually. So please be patient. We do get there in the end, but please keep those coming in. Right. Today's show. Now, we've got a couple of topics, hopefully time permitting, of course. And the first one, this is Tayo's one. I know nothing about this, so he's going to be leading the line on this particular one. But the topic is Zelenski, obviously the president or prime minister of Ukraine, the most effective person ever against neo-Nazis? So, Tayo, I've softened that title because yours was a little bit aggressive when you first.
Well,
otherwise, we'd never get broadcast anywhere. So that's why I was a bit mindful.
Well, fair enough. No problem. It's a very censorious, I think is the expression, the pronunciation. It's a very censorious place we're in for a so-called free society. But, okay, what the hell? Let's not get sidetracked. Right, so, here's the thing. I found, well, I've always known, I think, pretty much since I began paying attention to the Ukrainian issue, Russia-Ukraine conflagration, that President Zalenski is of Jewish heritage.
Yep.
And I just found that a little strange, but
does it matter? Does it matter? What's his religious background?
Exactly. As no one was making a big fuss of it, I thought nothing of it myself. And then I found out that he had been helped, if you wanted to use the least pejorative, not pejorative, the least biased expression I can think of. He had been helped to become president by a man called, am I right? It's Komalovsky?
Okay, who is this man?
I'm glad you asked. Because this man, as you put in, was the same person who funded the Azov battalion. Azov, depends how you want to pronounce it. Now, the Azov battalion is a controversial battalion, the Ukrainian battalion, because the Azov brigade, I beg your pardon, because of the extensive use of symbols and salutes much favored by certain Germans in the 30s. And
So they're a neo-Nazi group. That's what you're saying.
well, yeah, I didn't want to use that that word because YouTube algorithms, and YouTube doesn't like me at all, by the way. Useless tube. Uh, um,
I
I
wonder
didn't want to
why
use
that
that.
could be.
I didn't start calling them useless tube until they showed their hand. So
Oh dear.
they were the first to strike. The Azov battalion. I'm going to just choose to say Azov. That's what I'm going to use. Okay. Yeah. The Azov brigade, being as you put it, of that particular. Well, the symbols. They wear the patches. They use many of the symbols. They do the same salute, and they have very, very many of the same ideas as our erstwhile German opponents. And I wondered why a person who funded and helped Vladimir Zelensky become the president of Ukraine would do that if he knew that President Vladimir Zelensky was of Jewish origin. But even more confoundingly is discovered that this chap whose name I'm trying to remember is
Komalovsky.
Komalovsky, he himself is of Jewish origin.
Doesn't that, however, then negate what you're trying to say about the Azov Brigade, that they may have neo-Nazi views, but that doesn't necessarily mean if those views are anti-Jewish, for instance, or anti-black, or anti-whatever. Their views could be, I mean, I don't know, because this is not my topic. Could their views be just right-wing, but that's it, rather than any particular religion or demographic?
Right. Good question. And the answer is no, they are. You see, the word neo is used in front of that four-letter word and the other N word. The word neo is used by, I would say, more or less largely the Western press.
Okay.
In an attempt to, as I would see it, to whitewash these people. Whitewash might be an unfortunate term to use in this particular case.
Okay.
But it is a term largely used by Western media. There is nothing neo about these people. These people are proper. They are proper members of this philosophy.
Can you spell the letters out rather than
NAZI.
saying it?
They are proper, real life, actual NAZIs. They themselves don't describe themselves as neo.
They just say they're NAZI.
They're just flat out NAZIs.
So can I just clarify it for the benefit of myself first off, but also for some maybe our slightly younger listeners. I'm not talking child age, but I'm talking, some of our listeners are in their mid-20s, early 30s. They may not be totally aware, if they haven't learned it at school, what the NAZIs actually stood for. So if we clarify what the original NAZIs stood for, and then we can see whether this new Azov Brigade literally relates back to the previous group and their belief system.
The NAZIs of the 30s, of the 1930s, were strongly nationalist. They, in fact, that's what it stands for. National is the NA, and the ZI is whatever it is in German for socialists. So national socialists, but nationalistic socialists, was the foundation political leaning, if you like. The strongly nationalist, and I think that is, I would say, 60, 70, 80% of their gut feeling, if you like, okay?
Philosophy?
Or the philosophy, gut feeling. Because, for example, if we think about it, the original NAZIs, did I say any? Have I been saying NAZI? No, I can't.
NAZIs, yeah, you
Thank
said.
God for that. I thought the Americans had got me. For a second there, I thought the Americans had got me, man. The original NAZIs, they weren't very friendly. I mean, for socialists, they weren't really friendly with Stalin, if you remember.
Indeed.
Yeah,
They
so
were the opposite.
wow, so that's kind of funny, isn't it? That's kind of weird. Why would you be so antagonistic towards communist Soviet Union as it was at the time if you're a socialist?
It depends on what sort of socialism they, in quotes, thought they were, when in reality they were over the other end of the spectrum. Well, they were fascists, so right wing as opposed to left wing. So their name didn't really represent what they actually believed or stood for.
Well, they were meant to be redistributing wealth, wasn't it? Weren't they? And they thought that all the wealth was held in the hands of a certain religious sect, if you want, or religion. Let's put it now. Call it a sect. They were held in the hands of those of a particular religious persuasion.
Yeah.
And their idea was to redistribute that. So wealth-wise, there was an attempt to redistribute wealth more fairly as they saw it. And then the nationalists overreach, of course, was not just nationalism within their own borders, but nationalism outside the borders, because the people, the Aryan race, required living space, Lebensraum. Okay? So these people that we're talking about now, they are very nationalist. And if we remember, one of the main problems, because they were the people who were shelling the Donbass and the Lugansk for 8 years, which was in defiance of the Minsk agreements, because they felt that the whole of Ukraine should belong to Ukrainians. That's the nationalist
element.
Okay. The socialist element is something that I can't speak to quite as much, because in all the shooting and everything and bombing and shelling, not many people were talking about economics. But what they were talking about was the racial snot. So Ukraine is a weird hot pot. Is it melting pot? Thank you.
Pot.
Well, it should have been a melting pot. I don't think the people have actually melted together, unfortunately. No. But you have Hungarians, Poles, Jews, Ukrainians, and Russians. The Russians and Ukrainians are Slavs. And then you have the Hungarians, who are Catholics. So Slav is not a... No. Catholics is a religion. Catholic or Christians. The Slavs are... what is it? What's the name of that brand of Christianity practiced in Russia and...
Greek Orthodox.
Orthodox, no, not Greek. Yeah,
not
Orthodox.
Greek, but Orthodox.
Orthodox, yes. So thank you. So the Slavs are Orthodox. The Poles are Catholics.
Yeah.
And yet not that friendly with the Hungarians. So there's been a headache in that area for quite a long time. So the Hungarians, and even in the West, in the Lvov region, that sort of region, they were acceptable to the Azov, but it wasn't as if they were happy campers either. These are ultra nationalists.
Yeah, but can I just jump in very quickly? What's really strange, ultra nationalists, but into what capacity? Because they're basically attacking their brethren. The people they're attacking are closer to them, if this is what you want to say, than the actual people at the other end of the country in the east, which are the Hungarians and the Czechs or the Slovakians or whoever that are in that region. So the people they're supposedly attacking to justify what you're saying in terms of them being NAZIs or neo-NAZIs, it's the wrong group of people, would you not think? Seeing as they are brethren. That Ukrainians and Russians are all very, very close knit in terms of, language, their belief system. So why would they be using that reason to attack Russians in the southwest of the southeast, sorry, of the country? I don't get it. I don't get it. So then the moniker that we're saying that these neo NAZIs exist in Ukraine, it's a weakling at best.
Hey? Oh, no,
That's
no, no.
how I see it.
You asked a question, then you answered
No,
yourself.
that's my
So,
opinion. That's my opinion. So that's why I'm
you asked a
asking you.
question. Well, I'll answer it for you. It's a strangeness of humans that what you've pointed out is often recurring, that so-called brethren hate each other more than they hate others. For example, there are the Muslim sects, the Shia and who are the other people now? And the Sunni.
Yeah.
They're at different times they have preferred to side with Israel and with Christians than with their own Muslim brothers.
Yes, that is
Okay,
true.
in
But then that doesn't
Christianity,
correlate. That doesn't
in
correlate.
Christianity,
Yeah.
the Protestants and the Catholics
Yes.
have been willing to side with others against
Against each
people
other, indeed. Yeah.
against each other.
But then going back
In
to the 30s,
yeah,
what's the link then, therefore, with the nationalist side of the NAZIs back then and
mhm.
the Jewish people, who they obviously persecuted? So that,
Yeah, that was to do with
because they weren't brethren,
wealth distribution. That was to do
right?
with
Just
wealth
wealth
distribution.
distribution. So
They felt that they were controlled. That there's a conspiracy, a global Jewish conspiracy is the if they still say that there's a global Jewish conspiracy. And if you have a look at America and who's in control and in charge of America, if you have a look at the fact that the Israeli tail is wagging the American dog, I don't I used to poo-poo this idea of a Jewish conspiracy, but I don't poo-poo it any longer because at the very least, although I don't say that there is, I am certainly not going to say there isn't. Not at all. I
there
mean,
could be some influence for sure,
it's more
but
than
I wouldn't
influence, pal. It's
say
more than
it's
influence.
much more than that.
It's
No,
more
I
than influence.
think,
And where I'm going to head today with my thing is that we have to look at it and start asking serious questions. You and I have very different attitudes anyway. I've always said you follow the sport, and I don't think I don't know what you follow, to be honest. Tony, my man, I have no idea what you follow, but I try to follow the sport. What are these marks? This paw prints? You know, where does it lead? Where does it come from? Then I try to work out. Well, this is what's going on. So you have you're asking me why there were more in against the Russian speakers than against the Hungarians and the
yeah,
Poles. Well, they didn't feel. I suppose it boils down to this: they didn't feel under threat because the Hungarians and the Poles in Ukraine are such a are such a tiny minority that they don't represent a threat to anyone. That they're non-issue.
okay,
But when you have the ethnic Russians sitting on the richest parts of Ukraine, the most industrialized and the parts with all the goodies in all the minerals, all the great farmland and all that. When that happens, then you get worried that these people and historically, by the way, I think because I can't remember, President Putin was talking about this, that there was a problem back in the late 19th century, was it? I forget exactly when he said, when the people of, what's the capital called? Kiev.
yeah,
When the people of Kiev sided, I believe it was with the Poles against the Russians because they felt that the Russian speakers were dominating the Ukrainian speakers, even though there were brother Slavs. It just felt that, well, you're oppressing us. Now that's my memory from what President Putin was talking about. That little dissonance has been amplified by foreign powers, namely, you know who, Uncle Sam, and his meddling. And that amplification, which started in 2013, led to the ousting of Peter Yanukovych, I believe was his name, in what was a coup after all, and the introduction of Poroshenko. That became amplified and solidified the neo-Nazis. I don't even want to use that term, the Azov Brigade. That solidified their focus onto the people of the Donbass, who insane. Well, in that case, we want autonomy. It's like the seven counties in the UK saying they want the autonomy. If London and
we used this example before. We had
Mm.
this before, which is a similar scenario that it's happening and happened in Kosovo, in Serbia, whereas Kosovo was a state of Serbia, and because the border was porous, a lot of ethnic Albanians, etc., came through the border into Kosovo, in the southern part of Kosovo, so pushed the Serbians that were majority there higher up into the north of the country, and more Albanians over a period of time, this didn't happen straight away, started to infiltrate Kosovo, and so you had more ethnic Albanians in Kosovo who no longer considered themselves Albanians, mind you, but considered themselves, well, we're in Kosovo, we've been here a while, we're Kosovan. And so they wanted their independence. And obviously Serbia thinking, hold on, this is a region of our land, is being taken away from us. Granted, there are more, in quotes, ethnic Albanians who class themselves as Kosovans in that region than native Serbs, but it's still part of Serbia. And there was the conflict that we all know has happened. But going into this scenario, where have we had in the past? I mean, we're not even addressing the main point of the question, but where in the past have the Donbass region and the others in around there have claimed to want independence anyway? Where have we had that? I'm not aware of this. Was there?
Yes, that's why they declared independence. That's why.
But that's only since Russia came in and quotes protected their Russian people. When did that area previously want to align with Russia or want to be independent? Because they haven't actually said they want to be independent.
In 2014, you missed. I don't know how you missed it. In 2014.
So in 2014, the Donbass region wanted to be an independent country.
Well, what they said was that's what the Minsk agreements is all about. That's what the Minsk agreements is all about. That they wanted complete autonomy. They didn't declare full independence until the war started. But they wanted a full autonomy, and the rest of Ukraine said no.
Okay,
which is
interesting. We're having the same discussion here in the UK, where Scotland are saying we want full autonomy, and the British government are saying no.
No, I think the British government is saying they can vote for it. But just
no, they can't. They've had a vote, and that's it. It didn't go through.
Exactly, but I'm sure we'll have another one. I mean, it's just like we can't be having a vote every 6 months. That's ridiculous.
They're saying a generation, so you're talking 20.
I think it's. Years. Oh well, I don't know. I mean, that will change. I mean, that will change for sure. I mean, they're going to have it in another couple of years, another few years.
Wow.
But Nicola Sturgeon, it's almost as you one every year.
Exactly.
It was like, what? Come off it. No. So anyway, so what happened was with the Maidan, which is the revolution that threw out Yanukovych and brought in Poroshenko. And Yanukovych, he got himself into trouble because he wasn't full on board with going into the EU and going getting in bed with the West. He wanted a more independent Ukraine, but
still aligned to Russia.
Yeah, I was going to say, but still sort of leaning more towards Russia. a lot of people in Ukraine were like, let's go with the EU. They got all these nice things, will make a lot of money, yada yada, blah blah blah. And he didn't want that, so he got himself in hot water with the with some of the sponsors. I'm trying to find his name now. This sponsor of the Azov Brigade,
Pomalovsky.
Komalovsky, thank you, and a group of oligarchs who thought that he was holding them back from all the goodies that coming in with the West would bring them. So when they threw out Yanukovych in a coup, obviously it was leaning towards Russia and all that. The Russian citizens felt aggrieved. The ethnic Russians, I'm sorry, felt aggrieved, and they were
Well, why were they feeling aggrieved? At the end of the day, they're in Ukraine. So why are they feeling aggrieved?
Because they felt because there is a process, and if you want to change the government in a democracy, you do it at the ballot box, not with bullets.
I agree.
Well, that's why they felt aggrieved.
Well, I'm not saying. I mean, are you sure that it wasn't the rest of Ukraine also feeling aggrieved? Because clearly, even though some may have been supportive of the new regime, they didn't want it in place via means of a coup. They would have wanted it at the ballot box, surely.
I don't know that. What I do know is that the ethnic Russians felt aggrieved because this was a coup, and it was a coup bringing in someone who was very nationalistic, and they didn't like him and didn't trust him. They knew who backed him.
We could have the same debate here regarding our current Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. He was put in place. The people didn't vote for him. The party, yes, was still the same, but they didn't vote for him. It was the ministers in Parliament. I don't think there was any
bloodshed. I don't think people were being shot by snipers.
Well, did that happen? Did the coup did the coup cause bloodshed back then when it happened? I don't know. I'm not familiar with that.
Oh, okay. I'm really taken aback. Yes, okay. A lot of bloodshed.
Right.
Loads of bloodshed.
So who was responsible for that bloodshed then?
The nationalists, the Azov, people like the Azov. There were a few of
so the
these
Azov brigade actually were responsible. So they were
not solely. It's not the whole thing was on them. I said there were a few of these brigade of these people who were running around at the time. Since then, it has coalesced into I think it's the Azov and another couple. I can't remember the name, but they're much smaller.
Let's. I mean, I'm mindful of the time. I want to actually get to the question in itself, because we haven't answered that question. We've just established the groundwork of where and who these neo
follow this. Now, a person of Jewish origin, Komalovsky, he funds the Azov.
Yep. Brigade, who are a neo.
Neo-Nazis.
NAZR,
thank you.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck is going on there? And then the same Komalovsky fellow helps put a Russian speaker does the audience, and do you know that what's his name?
President Zalenski.
Zelenski didn't actually speak Ukrainian until he started running for office. Then he started learning Ukrainian and learned it well enough to make himself. Now he only speaks Ukrainian, but what a remarkable feat that he didn't. When he was running for office, is when he started learning Ukrainian and English. Now his English isn't that good still, but it's possible. I don't like the guy, but I tip my hat off to him. It's like how amazing is that?
So the thing is, how diverse is Russian to Ukraine? Is it simple? Is it like Spanish and Italian, for instance, which can be picked up by either citizen fairly easy because they share a large number of words and phrases? So could Zelensky being fluent in Russian easily pick up Ukrainian without too much difficulty?
It's a good question, and I'd be lying if I said I knew the answer. But it's not. I don't think it's as simple as learning a different dialect, for example. I think it is a different language.
Because both are Cyrillic. So
Yeah.
even the written word is similar, and I dare say that would aid the learning of it, and hence
Well,
why he
as I said, I don't
struggled
think it's a, I
more
don't think it's a,
with English.
I don't think it's a dialect. I think it's separate language.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's a separate
Anyway,
language. So,
first off, I want to clarify:
Mhm.
are we going to talk? Is this a Dynamite Conspiracy
It
show?
is. Oh, for
It
goodness sake,
is.
it is a hell
We
of a
never
conversation.
mentioned that at the beginning. That
Oh,
may
I'm
be an
sorry. Yeah.
oversight on my part. I thought we were just talking topics, but
No,
clearly
no,
these
no,
are
no.
conspiracies. So, okay, that gives us a little bit of leeway in case we were sort of making out they were fact, but we're
No,
sort
no.
of
We're following the
assuming.
spore here.
Okay.
So we've got two Jews or people of Jewish
Okay.
origin, right?
Yeah.
Sponsoring and using, right? The the
Azov Brigade.
well, not just them, the national the NAZIs, right?
And that nationalist agenda, so you're
Yes,
saying,
that's right.
to their benefit. How?
Well, is it really their benefit? Let's say that you are this Mr. Big kind of character. You know, you got a big head, you're going slightly bald, okay? You're very clever.
There's no one here that you're sort of resembling and pointing
All
a
right,
finger
okay,
at.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. No, I said bald. I said you're slightly balding. You're not
Oh,
slightly,
okay.
pal. You're
Oh,
far
okay.
gone, dude. Okay. So
Indeed.
so you're sitting there and you're looking out of your window. Now you live in this country. It's a huge country. And you're looking out your window. Over the past couple of centuries, every time there's a kerfuffle in to the west, it means trouble for your country. And slowly and surely, over the last 20 years, you've noticed this buildup of the West, and it's creeping closer, and it's creeping closer, and it's creeping ever closer to your borders. And you're sitting there, and you're thinking to yourself, this is something. We know these Westerners. Every single time we look to our West, they come and they kill millions of us. And I've had enough of this. It's time for me to be proactive, but I can't just go out and attack them because that's probably what they want. They want chaos, they want confusion. So I've got to be really clever about this. And you think about it, and you call in all your eggheads and geniuses, and they all sit down and say, you know what? Their target is Ukraine. What if we give them a poison pill, Ukraine? What if we give them someone that they think will be on their side and someone who they think will do their bidding, but who is actually one of us? Who
Double agent.
actually is a double agent.
A stooge.
It's a stooge. You know, it's a double agent. It's a stooge. A stooge is
A
an
stooge
idiot
is
who's
someone who can be thrown out and
no, a
risked
stooge is an
thrown
idiot
to the
who is a
lamb.
tool.
Yeah.
But a double agent has to be clever.
Yeah.
All right. So how are we going to do this? Well, I tell you what if we get our not so friendly friends, but we got common interests? What if we get our Israeli friends, our Israeli common interest allies, if you want to put it like that? What if we get them to talk to some of their people over there and to fund the very people that we would like to put all in one place, the real problem makers? Why don't we gather them into a place and then start something where we can treat them? We can treat ATTRITE, a treat. We can grind them down, you know, and we can keep grinding until we've utterly destroyed them. What if we do that? That would be wonderful. That would be somewhere. How would we do that? Well, I'll tell you what. Once the conflagration is started, instead of doing sensible things like when they're in a town and we attack the town, they retreat. We send more of them. We get our man to send more and more of them when it is obvious that they're going to lose. But he gives foolish political reasons. It says, no, we have to do this. Otherwise, we won't get any more funding. We won't get any more weapons from the West, blah, 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 yada, yada, all these sort of things.
So he puts them forward as cannon fodder effectively,
Effectively.
unbeknown to them.
Unbeknown to them. Until someone, a Ukrainian, went, hang on a minute, this doesn't make any sense. Even the Americans were like, why are you sending all these people into Bakhmut? Have you heard of Bakhmut? I don't
Yeah,
know how you,
Bakhmut. Yeah, the
why are
place,
you
one of the.
sending? Why are you standing in Bakhmut? The Bakhmut is a failed program. It's going to fall. There's no way it can be held. And they sent more and more and more soldiers. And then there was this general sitting there going, "This doesn't make any sense. I don't get this." But even though he complained, he sat in place, and then Bakhmut fell. Now, about a third of the way through Bakhmut, this general thought, "No, this is very weird," and he pulled out the Azov because they're supposed to be the elite.
Yeah.
People like that. He pulled them out and he sent in ordinary soldiers. Well, Zelensky and that crowd, they didn't say anything. They just let it happen. And then the ordinary soldiers were ground down, and then Bakhmut was lost. However, the next time there was a problem, which was in
Odessa or somewhere. No, where was it?
no,
Down the south of
our what?
down the south of Ukraine.
Yes, Artemovsk, not Artemovsk. Artemovsk is on Bakhmut.
Yeah.
I remember Avdiivka.
Okay. Was it?
It depends. Yeah. AVD. Then you can spell it separate ways. ADVIIVKA or AVDEEV, whatever.
Okay.
Avdiivka or Avdiivka. This fortress town,
Yeah.
from which they have been shelling Donetsk city for 8 years.
Yeah.
So what
But
happened
if
then
they've
was
been
that
shelling, if they've been shelling that area for 8 years, that's not where they sent it. It was
No, it is.
Melitopol or something, wasn't it?
What? That was Mariupol. That was one of the first.
Mariupol.
That was one of the Mariupol was the first big town to fall. That was Azov. The Azov weren't ground down there. There were actually there was a deal struck. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And
A lot of them were captured because they were
lot of them
run
were
out of water, run
Yeah.
out of food. They were
That's
almost
right.
starved in some
but
plant or something.
the leaders were released into the care of Turkey, and Turkey promised and swore to keep them there until the end of the war. And then, of course, it'd been Erdogan, whose word you can't trust. I don't know Erdogan released them a year ago or so. Anyway, but back to this thing. So, in Avdiivka, this general is watching the same thing happen all over again. And by this time, all across the front, enough of the regular army has been destroyed that it's becoming a natural thing that you have to send in these elite troops. And he doesn't want to do that. And he's making a fuss. So he gets called into Zelensky's office and he gets told, send the elites, send in the elite. And he doesn't want to do it. So he's sacked. And yes, I am talking about Zhelushny.
Yes.
Who is now ambassador to London, Ukrainian ambassador to London. So he was just shuffled out. And the Azov is now being ground down. By the end of this war, what did President Putin say were his two objectives? There were two. It wasn't land grab. All the Western
It was
press.
cleanse Ukraine of a neo-Nazi element.
And demilitarize
Ukraine.
Yeah, no Western troops in Ukraine. No.
So are you now saying, okay, because I'm mindful of the time, I want to get another topic.
Yeah.
Are you now saying then that this all has been a shrewd master plan by your main man who has put Zelensky in? So Zelensky is actually one of Putin's double agents in order to meet the objective in a different way as opposed to his ground troops actually invading. Are you sure that that's actually, because that's a massive leap here, that, or is it just opportunist that Zelensky is showing that he has actually been effective against, in quotes, neo-Nazis in his own country, and Putin is taking that as a victory, even though he really didn't have any say in it, because Zelensky
Zelensky
is trying to defend his
Zelensky
country.
would deny any such activity, because if he
Well,
did,
of
he'd be
course he
dead.
would. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course he
he'd
would.
be dead. So he's not going to say, yeah, I'm very effective against the NAZIs. He's got to work with them. They're supposedly he went to just outside Avdiivka at some point. I believe it was the end of towards the
Okay.
end of December. He went there to meet them, and they say, "You're doing a good job. Keep dying. I
You
mean,
see,
keep fighting."
I'm mindful of the time. I want to wrap this
So
topic up. So,
it is definite. Look, the greatest, best conspiracy, the biggest conspiracies are the ones you don't see, because they're so big, so vast that you can't believe it. And this one is staring you right in the face, and it's a master plan. I mean, it's genius. He's doing it. And not only is he doing it, he told you that's what he's going to do. So, and I'd say he doesn't tell lies. He actually told you the truth. I am going to do this, and then he's
okay.
doing it, and you think it's a happy coincidence? I admire your optimism, man. I really do. There is no coincidence here. This
I
is
think
genius.
I'm sorry. I mean, it's an interesting theory and conspiracy, but it's a huge one. This is on the same lines of did we land on the moon? I
No, it's
mean,
not.
oh,
No,
come
no.
on. It's so many things could have gone wrong early
Do you know?
doors.
Do
He
you
would
know
have.
who thinks? Do you know who thinks that I'm right?
Go on then.
Deputy Defense Minister of Ukraine, Hannah Malia, has made the accusation.
She said it herself that she thinks what Zelensky is the most effective person ever against neo.
She thinks that Zelensky is a Russian agent. Deputy Defense Minister, and she said she's still in position because she's very tight with Azov. She can't be moved.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Okay,
and
that's a massive claim.
I'm going to
We
give
should
the
attach that to the blurb with the show,
yeah.
just so to back up
I'll
your.
give you
Okay, so
the
you believe this conspiracy? Then you think it is actually true that Zelensky is well?
I can't explain why Jews would fund Nazis. Why would they? I mean, they're not stupid. So what's going on?
Okay, let's leave that one. I'm still that's a bit far fetched as far as I'm concerned. It is a
Ladies and gentlemen, you've
conspiracy,
got to love Tony.
but
You've got to love Tony. This guy's one. That's a big conspiracy, but aliens are fine, man. Come
yeah, aliens are fine as far as I'm concerned.
on.
Anyway, let's move on to a second
Yeah.
topic. Now, this one could be a conspiracy, and this is what really happened to the Boeing whistleblower.
Ah.
Now, let me give you a bit of background, those of you who are listening and watching in not knowing about this story. There was a chap called John Barnett. He was a former quality control manager at Boeing. He was found dead on March the 9th, 2024. So not that long ago. And his body was discovered in a car outside a Holiday Inn in the States. And apparently it was deduced that he died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So suicide, in other words. Now, he'd been an employee at Boeing for 30 years, and he'd raised concerns about company processes and their standards because they'd slipped significantly. And he said things were being fitted to meet deadlines. They weren't proper parts. They were substandard parts. And there were issues with some of the oxygen systems, the masks that come down. And he highlighted these and brought it to the attention. And he wasn't being listened to, so he whistleblowed about this whole thing. And he was giving evidence, and he himself said he faced retaliation from the company for his disclosures, of which Boeing obviously denied. And he did say to his friends and close colleagues that if something happens to me, they will claim it's suicide. And I'm telling you now, it's not suicide. And lo and behold, just a few days later, his body was found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
I hope
and
he did
attributed.
the air quotes on that. Hope it's clear.
It is a conspiracy. We don't have facts and not obviously facts, but Boeing will, I dare say, will say they had no involvement in this. They don't do anything like this. So how did he die? Was it suicide? And this is the question that we're going to talk about here. Was it suicide? Was he bumped off by somebody either in Boeing or, as some people are now alluding to, something even in the government of the United States? Because let's be frank here, if Boeing, which is one of their largest plane suppliers, is undermined in any way, it has knock-on effects on the whole economy, has knock-on effects on the US government itself with contracts. So could it be that Boeing maybe not directly have shut this person up, but it came elsewhere? What are your thoughts?
You know, it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. Okay? Me, I'm a simple man. I think it's a duck. Okay? For someone to say predicting
its own demise.
Yeah, no, when you make predictions, be it a scientific theory, hypothesis or something, that's pretty much our way of seeing very strong evidence become very close to proof, because accurately predicting the future is so blooming difficult.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So if someone predicts that, first of all, he said point blank, look, these people I believe are out to get me.
Yeah.
He was worried about what might happen to him, and he told people he was worried to him. And then he says they'll probably make it look like this, but let me assure you that I am not suicidal.
Yeah.
And then almost in contempt, whoever did it was just contemptuous and just thought,
maybe they didn't know. Clearly, they didn't know that he'd had these conversations with loved ones and family.
Tony. I don't think they care. I think there's so much going on in the world today where everything just makes you end up scratching your head and asking that crucial question. Well, I could see it, and Tony could see it, and everybody and his brother could see it, and yet there's nothing we can do about it. It's a very strange situation we're in now. It's like we're living in Alice in Wonderland. In Wonderland, not in Alice. Disgusting. Yeah. We're living in Wonderland.
Yeah.
And wherever these people are, they don't seem to care, because why would you? First of all, another thing that makes it difficult is this: what is the conspiracy exactly? Why is it that over the last, I believe it's 15 years or so, when it really got bad? There are videos I can share with the audience, by the way, which I will do. These are videos on Useless Tube. And there are people who are sneaking cameras into the Boeing factory and showing what people are doing. People are smoking POT, right? And then going back in to work on the complex electronics and things like that.
I think it probably may not just be Boeing that suffers that, unfortunately, but yeah.
Well, I mean, apparently there used to be a time when employees were regularly tested, so it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're right. I think when it comes to sensitive things, I think if you wanted to, you could test people and ensure that they're not they're not doing this at work.
Yeah.
And then the attitude of what people are saying, they don't care, they're fed up and this and that. And one video that I will share, what's wonderful about it is that at the end, the guy is asking people, would you ever, when you're flying, do you fly on a Boeing plane or you choose another plane? And many of them say, I don't even fly at all. because I know
they know what goes in and how they're made.
They know what goes in at all. So they don't even trust other aircraft manufacturers.
Yeah.
Because what they think, well, if it's happening here,
it must be happening there.
Probably the world's greatest aircraft manufacturer.
You see, Boeing themselves are a huge company in terms of many areas, not just them physical side, but
defense as well.
They're in defense, and this is where the conspiracy sort of comes more to fruition. Because if it was just a single company, and obviously they could have an effect on the economy, but the economy can bounce back, etc., etc. But Boeing, as you rightly say, are heavily involved in many defense contracts. And if the troubles that Boeing are now facing in terms of their credibility, their safety record, fact that is concerned about the way that they build planes, quality assurance, that's going to scare away some big, big players in the world that they sell to, yes, and also defense contracts, because there are other companies that want to snip in. But I mean, America can't allow a foreign country to supply them with their defense weaponry. And because part of their defense contracts, they have to be American. And Boeing is really the only player in town. So they clearly don't want that to be affected. And this would not just affect the share price, it would have affected so many other elements within government and even in the military side of things. And the US government could not really allow that to happen. For the sake of one whistleblower's gripe, they could, now obviously by proxy, they're not going to do it themselves, neither are Boeing. They're so far removed from the actual potential instigators of this, if they did bump him off, that they can legitimately claim they know nothing about it. And there's no way of linking the two. But as you say, quacks like a duck, waddles like a duck. The interests of the government are outweighing the interests of the individual.
Well, I suppose that depending on people like me to go, it's really hard to swallow, because they're addressing the symptom and not the disease.
Yes.
If you keep looking the other way, a time will come when your planes will just be dropping out of the sky at such a rate that it doesn't matter what you say. No one is going,
no one's going to believe you anyway.
If they were addressing the issue and they were silencing this guy, I'd come on board and say, I accept what you're saying. But they're not addressing the issue. So unless they're the stupidest human beings on the planet, not only are they not addressing the issue, do you remember, have we discussed about DEI and flying?
Yes. You want to elaborate for some of our listeners and viewers may not know what that is or what we discussed before.
DEI is diversity, equity, and what's the other one?
Inclusion.
Which means that you try to make an equality of outcome, not an equality of opportunity. So, for example, if X number of, for just whatever, okay, if X number of women and X number of men apply for a job, equality of opportunity means interviewing everyone and giving everyone a fair chance.
Yeah.
So you don't say, oh, these are a bunch of women, we're not going to interview them, or these are a bunch of men, we're not going to. No. What that you interview everyone and everyone has a fair chance. Okay, so that's equality of opportunity.
Yeah.
But DEI is equality of outcome. So what you say is, look, we need 10 pilots. So we must have 5 women, and we must have 5 men. So it's got to be 5-5 equal.
Yeah.
And that's equality of outcome. Now, what if those 5, I'm not going to choose the gender, what if one of those 5 one of that set of 5 is substandard? Well, DEI doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that's got to do with sweeping roads, that's fine. You just have slightly dirty roads.
Yeah.
But if that's got to do with your pilot who doesn't know what he or she is doing, that's life-threatening.
Yeah, big concern there.
It's a big concern. And it's same thing goes on not just at the tail end of the flight experience, which is with the pilots. Apparently, DEI happens in the manufacturing process as well.
Right.
So this is the problem.
So in other words, this John Barnett, who's claimed about Boeing safety over the years,
Mm.
you're sort of putting that down as maybe DEI, as that being the factor. So they've
Well, DEI
employed people
began
to meet arbitrary quotas
recently.
when the people who've they've put in those positions aren't necessarily skilled enough to do those positions.
Correct. But that didn't start 15 years ago, which is when he
No.
said all this trouble started over at
He's,
Boeing.
I thought he said even longer than that. It was a fair few
No,
years,
no.
was it not?
What happened was that Boeing was originally, I mean, talking about back in the 50s now, and it was originally started, I suppose is the word to use. The company was founded, that's the expression.
Founded,
The
there
company
we
was
go.
founded by actual engineers, people who loved engineering and they loved their job and they just wanted to produce the best planes ever.
Yeah,
That was their focus. And then they got big, 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 big and bigger. They started going for government contracts. And the original engineers got older and older. And the time came when they thought, you know what, we can't handle this any longer.
yeah,
And then the money men moved in. The
which
people
is
who,
always a concern.
yes, then the money men moved in. And then they came in and they're not engineers. They just look at the bottom line. And they're like, well, why are we doing this? Surely I overheard Jim say over, a couple of cubicles, I overheard him saying that, oh, we could cut corners and we could do, and we could save ourselves money. And people are like, yeah, that's that we could cut corners, but that's not very good for the planes and for
No,
safety.
no.
And they're like, safety. Is the plane going to fall? Probably not. That's good enough for me.
Uh,
And that's what
when,
happens
when
15.
safety is paramount for your customers, because that's the whole point. Yes, they
Well,
want to get
look,
to their end destination, want to do it in a safe manner, do they not?
these people look at the maths. So they look at the probabilities, the statistics. Okay, how many planes do you think we're going to lose? All right, over the next 5 years, we'll lose 2 planes. How much is that going to cost us? Blah. Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. It bottoms out.
Wow. So
I
you
mean,
think that they actually look at, well, we can afford to lose a couple of flights who people would
not
die.
every year,
No, but
but every so
yeah,
often,
every
yeah.
so often they calculate, well, if we save time in manufacturing this much,
Yep.
yes, the quality drops, so we get some problems, but those problems we can manage, we can
We
live
can
with.
manage them because
But
if a plane
poor people
drops,
that
it
fall in the
costs us.
plane,
If a plane drops, it costs us two, three, $400 million.
compensation.
Yeah, but if we cut this and we do this, then we're going to make $5-6 billion. I mean, it's a no brainer, as they would say.
So hitting their targets in terms of orders and parts, even though they're substandard,
Yeah,
is more cost effective and more profitable
yeah,
than the passenger safety,
correct.
which
That's
is
what happened
supposed to be
15
paramount.
years from 15 years ago. But more recently, with the DEI, that's an additional problem that has worsened the situation.
So they've adopted that using substandard people alongside the substandard parts.
Correct, which of course demoralizes the people who are fighting to keep standards. Because if you're fighting to keep standards and then your supervisor is somebody who can't tell her elbow from her bum, that's just gonna really sort of just
Yeah.
make you depressed and really just fosters a don't care attitude.
So this is where, so this to me shows that this whistleblower, John Barnett, who had been there for 30 years and had and was blowing the whistle on all these issues that Boeing were facing to bring it to the forefront so people can actually do something about it and get them to right their ways. That now he's been bumped off, which, okay, he's died. We're saying bumped off. I shouldn't put words into people's mouths. Okay, he's now passed away, and they're saying it was due to a self-inflicted gunshot wound. As we're
Even
getting
though he
close to
said
the
it,
top,
even though he
even
said,
though he'd said himself to friends and family that they're after me and they'll make it look like suicide. I'm not suicidal. What's your view? What do you think here has happened? It's self-inflicted gunshot wound. That's the
I don't believe he killed
county
himself.
coroner's
I don't believe he
report.
killed himself. I don't believe in himself. I don't believe he killed himself, and but I can't tell you why he was killed because I think I don't believe it would be necessary to kill him to tamp down this story
Story.
because the governments control media. If the media doesn't, if they don't want a story told, it won't be told.
Indeed.
So then they could have
Media
done this.
blackout is a common
This is media
phase. Yeah.
blackout. Just nobody will hear anything. It's just you won't hear anything. Yes, social media will be picking it up, but even social media now can just ban. You know, if you just type in Boeing, it could get to the point where you type in Boeing, and then the story it just gets shadow banned. You
Yes,
think you've
indeed.
published it, but no one else has seen
You're
it.
seeing it. Mm.
You know, so I don't know why he was bumped off, but I do believe he was bumped off.
You
I
believe he's bumped off too?
I do. I
Yeah,
do.
yeah. I think he was
Very
a
unfortunate because
thorn
he
in
was
the side.
honorable man
Is it
trying to do something.
unfortunate? Yeah, for someone who was loyal to the company, he was just doing his job, but did want to raise quality issues because that was his original job, of course.
Yeah.
Wasn't being listened to. Profit was being put ahead of safety and quality, of which he then became a whistleblower.
I can
And
only think of one
clearly,
thing.
go on.
I can only think of one reason to bump him off, and that is as a warning to everybody else. Because let's be honest, if you were thinking about blowing the whistle, if you were a Boeing worker and you were gathering evidence, what would you do now?
Yeah. You'd
Yeah,
think twice, of course you would.
think twice. You'd stop.
Yeah, you'd
You're not
stop.
thinking twice.
So
Just
yeah,
like oh
that's a
no,
very good point. So you actually think therefore he was bumped off
oh now that
as a
I've come up with
warning,
now that
as
I've
a
thought of it as a
message.
warning, as a
Yeah,
message, yeah, yeah, because I
indeed.
think that would just like whoa.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That certainly will put a lot of people off from coming
And it
forward.
even explains why they made it look like a suicide because he said he wasn't going to commit suicide, so they were making it clear that he was bumped off.
Yeah, yeah. He said he wasn't bumped. Yeah, it's almost reinforced that.
It reinforces,
And
yeah,
if anyone else wants to come forward, think twice.
yeah, because it was an accident and people thought, oh, he just died. Oh, it was just an accident.
Which could happen,
Unfortunate,
but
yeah.
he
Then
said
people
they'll
would have
make it
thought,
look like a suicide, and he's predicted his demise, which
yeah.
is a
There's just
shame.
one thing they didn't do was the classic in fiction, which is when you do that, when you want everyone to know that it wasn't suicide. I think it's fiction made against the made. It's fiction told against the mafia that they make it look like suicide. The guy shot himself 3 times in the back of his head. that kind of suicide. Well, do you remember the case of the spy in London who they
Oh,
said
he found
committed?
himself in a
He
suitcase.
put his in a
Himself
suitcase.
in a suitcase.
In
That's
a
just
suitcase.
nonsense.
Can you imagine? Anyway,
Nonsense. Yeah, made up story. Anyway. Okay. I mean, we could talk at length, unfortunately, but unfortunately, there's that. We have reached the end of the show for another week.